All right. Happy Monday. What a day. A lot of good Mondays here recently, but this one was extra special with the inauguration today. We participated over there on Abs and Ray put together a podcast today, which was pretty cool. Monitored the inauguration all day long. And yeah, it was really interesting. Excited to see the new president sworn in, a few executive orders signed today. And I think a lot of happy people that Gary is done now at the SEC. Today was his last day, and he did resign this evening there on X, letting everybody know that he was no longer going to be there moving forward, which again, I think a lot of people are happy for. I think the space as a whole for digital assets is going to move to new heights in adoption and utility, and have a lot of the things that we've all been hoping for a long time. The previous administration was very, I don't want to say anti-crypto. They were for probably 90% of the time that they were in office. And then, here the last year, when they figured out that it was a large portion of the voting population that's holding crypto, around 60 to 80 million Americans hold some form of digital asset as an investment. They pivoted and decided that they were going to start supporting crypto, and which was nice to see, But I hate that it has to be that way. That hate has to be about the money and support and jockeying for public policy, when in reality it should be about driving innovation here in the U.S. and fostering that, just like we did with the internet. I mean, imagine if we hadn't put ourselves in position to foster innovation with the internet, and we had allowed that to go overseas to Europe or Singapore or Dubai, right? We wouldn't be in the economic position that we are today, with the GDP that the U.S. is able to command, and the value that we're able to give the world at scale. And I don't think we lost that race with crypto. Luckily, I think that there's enough. I don't know. I think everybody else kind of looks to the West to see what we're going to do. Still, we do have the largest GDP globally, and just a very large player in global economics. And so with that, we tend to get first mover advantage on things. People tend to follow along when we move, and not before. You're poking the bear if you're pushing things along further than the U.S. or faster than the U.S. is. So excited to see us finally at a point where we can become the leader and step into that role globally here in the U.S. and globally again. And kind of lead the way and foster innovation. And I think Trump and his administration will do that. And I think it's going to be across the board. I think it's going to be all boats rise type situation. I do think there will be a day of reckoning with regulations and adoption of this stuff. You need some constraints around it. And we saw Trump launch his meme coin. I don't know if you guys bought into that. It's not anything I bought. But I have friends that did, and then it rugged. When you have small market caps like that, it doesn't take but one person that bought in early to really ruin it for everybody else. And that doesn't always have to be the person that launched the token. There's lots of times that people that were allocated tokens in the beginning wait till there's enough liquidity there, and then they just step out. And people know the game. Right? That's what you're doing. You're speculating on these meme tokens and hoping to, your musical chair is taken before somebody else's. I don't play those games. It's not my thing. We have clients and friends that do that on a regular basis and make good money doing it because they've seen the patterns, been there, done that, run a syndicate, all the other things that can be done in that space. But interesting to see them launch meme tokens. Trump's family there. I don't know what that is going to mean for regulation. We still haven't seen any ramifications for Hawk Girl and her token that she launched and then rugged everybody on. You'd think that the SEC would be policing those types of things instead of going after Ripple over the time frame that they have. Very hopeful that here in the this week potentially we could see a settlement for the lawsuit. The SEC did file their continuation of the appeal on time, barely, this last week, prior to Gensler removing himself and resigning. Paul will step in. It'll take a while for Paul to really get going in this position and step into the role and be the chair and foster, the adoption of crypto. Still think Tether's a problem. We'll probably talk about that tonight. It did depeg over there on Solana. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it was 97 cents just a few days ago, which is, Luna depegged, repegged for a day, and then off the cliff it went. We'll see if, something similar happens here for Tether, since it did come back up and repeg. So tomorrow could be a very interesting day for digital assets. And I think this whole first quarter is just going to be a blitz of volatility and craziness. And then I'm hopeful that after we kind of get that out of the way and SOB 121's rolled out, stablecoin regulations are rolled out, 99% of crypto goes to zero, and the utility-based tokens that a lot of people here they're watching are invested in increase significantly in value as that market cap, rises with the liquidity moving from those other tokens into the ones that are going to stick around. And then other liquidity flowing in from, the investment banks and other people that want to utilize the networks will happen. So that's, kind of what I wanted to run it down with to begin with here. Excited about the inauguration, excited for a new chapter here in the U.S. and very hopeful that things do change for the better and people are much wealthier throughout this administration and on the other side of the volatility here early on. So with that, we'll go ahead and hop into the questions. Anything is game. We run down estate planning, mitigating taxes, how to generate yield or returns with your digital assets. You can ask me about any digital assets. I'll give you my unbiased opinion. Nothing here is financial advice, all for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice, you can reach out to Digital Ascension Group has an RIA, Digital Wealth Partners, and they do have licensed financial advisors that understand crypto, provide institutional custody, and all of the other fun stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into it. We got Big G over here on YouTube, and they ask, hey, Jake, hope you and the family are well. We are. Thank you very much. You said in your previous video you would take profit around $100. Can you give a rough percentage of your bag you'll be liquidating? Thanks again for your content. I won't talk about a percentage of my bag. My goal is to take $5 million worth of profit. So, at $100, that'd be a 50,000 XRP that I would have to sell in order to get that. So that's kind of my game plan. But we did get our first loan across the line just last week with Digital Wealth Partners. We worked with Maple Finance to get that done inside institutional custody. So 7-figure loan, 2 million XRP put up. We got them $1 million. Assets are held there in institutional custody, insured, not going to get liquidated. None of that other crazy stuff that happens in the DeFi protocols. Buttoned up, and we were able to get that person liquidity in USDC, and they wanted to buy some more, some more XRP, and we have ways to generate returns on that XRP, and so they put that XRP to work along with some other that they had in order to be able to cover the interest that will be due on the note. So again, maybe I won't have to, should be able to borrow against it, and over time just refinance that loan, especially as the value increases and the interest rates come down with the other products that we're building there at Digital Wealth Partners. If you're interested in getting a loan against your XRP, they are larger amounts. It's not like it's chump change. These providers that we work with, the lowest amount that they will loan is around $250,000. So if you have at least $500,000 in XRP and you are looking to get a loan, the interest rate is in the mid to high teens, so it's not the cheapest interest rate in the world. The terms on the loan are anywhere between 3 and 6 months. We do have one provider that we can access liquidity that's on a longer term basis, so on a 1 year note at a lower interest rate also, but you need at least 2 million that you're going to borrow there, so you'd have to put up 4 million in XRP to get that done. And that was my main objective. You know, I wanted to have returns, be able to be paid on your XRP because there's no native way to get yield on it, and be able to borrow against it before the crazy price appreciation happens, so that on the other side of that, you know, to your point here, I wouldn't have to sell. I could just borrow it and know that I would be able to make the payments based on my other assets being put to work, and you know, refinance that note over time as XRP continues to go up in value. Let's see here. He also asked, can you give your thoughts on why BlackRock hasn't released their XRP ETF as of yet? It will move the market. As soon as they file the trust again, it will move the market. That already happened before in November of 2023 when they filed a trust, their fake ETF trust, according to Bloomberg, and not Ripple or BlackRock. Anyway, as soon as they do, everybody knows it's game time. Same thing with the Bitcoin ETF. As soon as they filed, everybody knew it was game time. And so I'm just confident that, you know, as soon as they do try to pull the trigger on that, or do pull the trigger on it, XRP's vertical. She's gone. Sweet Potato 2 says, hey Jake, how are you? 2 questions. Do you still believe the banks of Japan are going to use XRP by the end of the month? I'm still confident they're going to raise interest rates here this week on the 23rd, and that should begin to cause the unwind of the reverse carry trade. And the solution to the liquidity crisis there for that situation is XRP, ultimately. So yes, I do think that if we move rates down and they move rates up, people get squeezed, especially if they're aggressive in their rate hike here on the 23rd. If they move at 50 basis points, send it, baby. The other question is, how would the price of XRP be affected by the banks of Japan using it in their transactions? So the SBI currently settles about 1/10 of the FX market on a daily basis. That total market moves about $6.5 trillion a day. So you're looking at $650 billion moving over the XRPL if they started using it. You've also got, you know, the banks there in Japan and their volume of transactions. You know, I think easily $50 is justifiable, and then ratchet it up from there, because as soon as 2 banks start using it, the rest of the banks will jump behind it. And now that Trump's in place and Gary's out, there's really nothing stopping that from happening. Todd, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, good evening. I've been a member of the Beyond Broke Mastermind since August of 2024, and it's a great value. Thank you for the kind words. I must say it's been a little discouraging with how much XRP has been performing, honestly. Any good news would be appreciated. We're just in a sideways trend here, brother. Like, I don't know. We've been here a long time. I have, personally, right? So I know you said you joined the mastermind in August. I'm sure you probably own things longer than that. We're here for the volatility, right? So even if we're down 10% this week, if we were up 100% last week, like, what other market are you going to get that in, you know? I am highly confident that we continue to see upside. There might be a pullback when Tether goes, and when the reverse carry trade unwinds. But immediately after that, they're going to have to use XRP for liquidity in order to shore up the total global financial system. And I think when you see, you know, 4 digits on the screen for the price, you're going to be okay. You're going to remember this week here where you were down 10% and just kind of shuck it off, like, not a big deal. When your portfolio is hundreds of millions of dollars, you just smile. You won't have to worry about a whole lot of volatility there. And again, you know, it's great to see those types of returns in a short period. I would just encourage you to stay calm during that. I don't know if you've ever watched, there's lots of videos out there on sudden wealth syndrome. I would encourage people to, you know, go look those up, and talk to your attorney, talk to your wife, and don't talk to anybody else. or your spouse, excuse me, you could be a lady. Todd's not a lady, but ladies could be watching. So your spouse and your lawyer, that's who you need to be calling when your assets appreciate, and maybe your tax guy. That's about it. Do not tell your relatives. Do not tell your friends. Keep it on the down low. I'm sure there will be signs for people. But again, surround yourself with professionals that know what they're doing before that happens, so that you can make those calls on the other side of it and know that you're protected and you're not being sharked by anybody. So again, thank you again for the mastermind comment. Excited to continue to bring value there. We are going to have somebody come in and talk about how to increase your personal credit, your business credit here in the near future. And we're going to continue to bring in people that have different expertise. We also have a guy lined up for real estate. We had Matt Schneider in there today talking about digital wealth partners and all the returns and the ways that those the funds and the partners that they have over there can generate returns on your XRP, which is really cool, along with the loan that we just got done. So anyway, if you're interested in joining the mastermind, want to check that out, you can go to the link in the bio on either YouTube, X, or Twitter, or TikTok, which TikTok's back, by the way. Awesome to see. But yeah, and you can also go to the website. So it's mastermind.beyondbroke.com. You can put in the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you 1 month free. So it's Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, MO like Mary Oscar, gets you 1 month free there in the group, and you can check it out and see what everybody's talking about. And again, thank you for the kind words, Todd. Living Legacy says, thank you everyone for being here. Please smash the like button and share the stream with a friend. Subscribe if you're finding value in this, and appreciate you guys being here. We got a couple people over here on TikTok. This is nuts. Is this really going to skyrocket? When they use it, you will know. Until then, constraints. The reason we've seen the rise so far is people are piling in and buying it up for the spot ETF, and that's the consistent volume that you're seeing on it. And then also Ripple hasn't been dumping as much XRP on the market out of the escrow. So that's why we've seen the price rise to this point. But when Japan starts using it, I think you could see easily $50 in a day when that demand starts hitting the market and they start buying it up off the exchanges over there in Southeast Asia. Let's see here. Don, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, hi, Jake. Can you please explain market cap multipliers in simple terms? Hope to see you at XRP Vegas. I will be there. Market cap multipliers in simple terms. I don't know exactly what you're asking with the market cap multipliers. I mean, there's valuation of a business. If you can give me a clearer idea of your question further down in the chat, I'll make sure to answer it more specifically, but I can kind of talk broadly to the subject with the way that you've asked it. So market cap is total outstanding shares of a company and what those shares are trading at. So, let's say you've got Apple stock and there's 10 million outstanding shares, and each one of those shares is trading at $100. Now you've got, $1 billion market cap for the current shares that are trading. When you say multipliers, most of the time you don't get a multiple on a business unless you're looking at the EBITDA or the SDE, which does not, have anything to do with the stock or share price. It's going to be on the income for the company. EBITDA is earnings before tax, amortization, depreciation, or interest. And, that kind of the expenses, profit minus the regular expenses of the company. SDE is seller discretionary earnings. So, I own some businesses, I do things out of them, pay for a vehicle, cell phone, other stuff. You add all of that stuff back that the owner of the business is taking out, and then that's, moved back in. And then depending on the industry, you may have a multiple that you would, value that company at. Most of the time it's somewhere between 2 and 4x If it's a tech company or a SaaS company and you have a lot of MRR, maybe you're getting a 10x on the multiple. The higher the EBITDA of the company, if it is 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, you actually get a higher multiple on the valuation of the corporation. Publicly traded companies are obviously a higher multiple as well. So anyway, not sure if that's specifically what you're talking about. Again, if you can give me further clarification down in the chat, I'll do my best to find it. And you may have been talking specific to digital assets, but not sure, how that would even. There's not a multiple on that. He says, no, it's the same one. Not sure here. If I didn't get it, if that didn't make sense, then please, mention it in the chat and I'll try to follow up on it. Kurt, thank you for the super chat. He says, definitely looking forward to the JPY increasing their rates and unwinding the reverse carry trade, which will cause markets to fall and potentially require the need for liquidity. Yes, liquidity is going to be the word of 2025. I have a feeling. And thank you, sir, for the super chat. Hope you are well, you and your family. Let's see if we have any other super chats that I missed further up. We have one here. We got Off the Grid. He says, what do you think of Quant and AVAX? I actually really like AVAX. Their consensus protocol is pretty interesting. So I did a video on them. They have 3 different types of consensus that they run. It makes it really agile and makes it really robust in their smart contract capability for Avalanche and their token AVAX. I think that's a winner. I think it's going to be around on the other side of regulations, and I do think it'll be implemented. If you want to build something on Avalanche, you got Avalabs. They will donate up to $5 million in a grant to you for your project if it is something that's going to bring a lot of value to their network. So we got a lot of stuff there. And then the other one's Quant. Quant has done really well. I made a bunch of money on Quant. I don't know what the long-term price appreciation, people talking about $1 million for Quant, I think are crazy. It just pays for the fees on the network. It's not actually moving the value over Ledger. It's a subscription fee that's paid in Quant. I don't know what the long-term price appreciation is there. I really don't understand the value proposition of the token itself. The network and the protocol absolutely will be used. The token itself, just for paying fees for access to it, doesn't make sense to me. So just my 2 cents. We have a few people over here on TikTok asking about the LLCs. So with that, I think it's a good idea personally. If you move your assets into a company to manage those assets, a holding company that's an investment company. Not a crypto company, not a trading company, but a holding company that's an investment company. It can be a trading company if you are trading your assets pretty regular. If you're making more than 20 trades a year, a trading company can make sense because you're not going to be holding those assets long term anyway. You're swing trading, and it's going to be short term capital gains, and so you're not going to have to deal with each individual transaction, the taxes on those. You'd just be taxed on the overall profit or loss at the end of the year on the assets themselves. Or the cash that you took out. So there's a lot of benefits to an LLC. So if you want to do that previous to price appreciation, I think somewhere north of $50,000 in value in digital assets makes a lot of sense to move those into an LLC. And the reason for that is you're anticipating further price appreciation, or you're going to use those assets to produce returns of some kind to generate income for yourself. And it gives you the full breadth of the tax code to offset that income. Moving the assets into the LLC, you want to do it as a single member LLC. We work with people to set them up in Wyoming. There's 3 reasons for Wyoming. 1, you get attorney-client privilege. 2, there's no state tax. And 3, it is the most friendly jurisdiction for digital assets here in the U.S. So we work with people to file them there. We do EIN, articles of organization, the registered agent. So even if you don't reside in Wyoming, I know early on when I was setting up companies, I didn't realize I could do it in another state. I thought I had to use my address. You can pay for a registered agent in another state, and they allow you to use their address to set up the company. It's like $150 a year, nothing crazy. You can actually also purchase, a virtual office there, and they will, for like $300 a year, forward you your mail that's, to that LLC. If you want to list that as your address for the mailing address, they're in the state. We have partners that we can refer people to that if they want to do that. You're going to need an operating agreement, and that's really the most expensive piece when you're working with an attorney to set this up. They're going to charge you somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 just for the operating agreement. And it's going to have specific language, for digital assets and other types of investments, and how the returns are going to be used and on what cadence they're going to be distributed. Again, we recommend a single member LLC because limited partnerships have tax implications when you move the assets in there as capital contributions, but there are no tax implications when it's a single member LLC and you're funding the assets or funding the business with the assets to start it as the capital contribution. And we run all of this down in documentation that we provide people that work with us on the LLC. If it's something you're interested in, you want to protect your assets and make sure that you can mitigate taxes on the other side of price appreciation, you can just go check out digitalfamilyoffice.io, and in the services column, or you can type in the top right search bar LLC. You go to the LLC formation page, and you can put in the code. I'll give you guys the code, 50 OFF OFF DAG LLC. So that's 50 off DAG LLC. Allows you to get the LLC for $1,500 instead of $3,000. Want to make it affordable for people. I think it is the easiest way to set yourself up for success on the other side of price appreciation for your digital assets. Some of the other things and benefits that you can do, you can purchase a vehicle under Section 179 of the tax code. Trump's going to bring back 100% bonus depreciation this year on heavy equipment, which is going to be awesome. So if you're going to buy a vehicle over 6,000 pounds, you see these soccer moms and they're driving the Porsche SUV or the Ferrari SUV. That's why, because it's $400,000 for that vehicle and you can write it off. So maybe you only put $80,000 down and you can write off $400,000 against your income. And you can use that to travel, to go look at investments or meet with people for your company, your investment company. It also positions you to be able to set up insurance policies, which is a great way here in the U.S. that you can mitigate taxes and store your wealth and grow it over the long term tax-free inside those policies. We work with people to set up PPLI or private placement life insurance. You need at least $5 million or more to get that done, but we're working on a way to be able to whittle that down to $1 million to $2 million to get those policies started, which should be available later this year. And you'll be able to move your asset in there in kind. So you can pay the premiums, move that into the policy up front. And it is a little, there's a cadence to how much you can move in when, otherwise it becomes a modified endowment contract and you can't borrow against it, which is the whole fun part of this, is you can borrow against the cash value of the policy at like 5 or 6% interest. And the assets can be traded or grow tax-free inside that policy, just like an endowment or inside of like a Roth IRA. And, God forbid you pass away, it's going to happen to all of us, but those assets will transfer to your trust or your beneficiaries in kind. And you'll be, you're passing it on to the next generation with no estate taxes or taxes to them, which is awesome. So we can work with people to do all of those things. If you want to move the assets into a trust, there's another piece. So the gift tax threshold here in the U.S. is $13.99 million per person, almost $28 million per married couple this year in 2025. And so with that, you could gift up to $28 million between the two of you into a trust with no tax implications. Anything above that is going to be taxed at 40% on the gift tax, which is rough. So especially if you have, let's say you win the lottery, come into $100 million, they're going to whack you with 50% taxes because most people don't play the lottery with a business. They play it in their personal name, not playing it with a trust. So they're going to get you for the taxes up front on that. And then now you got $50 million. And when you go to move it into a trust to protect it, they're going to clip you again for another 40 on the 30 million above the 28 million, or the 20 million above the 28 million. So just work with attorneys and estate planners and people that understand this stuff. Moving into the LLC, the point there was you could gift small portions of equity in the LLC after you've already created it as a single member to families and friends, and you get a valuation done on the LLC, and it can bring down the valuation of the LLC, even though the assets, let's say the assets are 50 million, you get the valuation done after you gifted a little bit of equity. Now the valuation's at 40 million, 35 million. Now you can move a lot more of those assets into the trust with no tax implications. And it's also really good to have an LLC outside of your trust that can take on the tax implications from the trust, because anything over $15,000 worth of income inside of a trust in the U.S. is taxed at 37.5%. So, if you made a couple $100,000, you would love to pass that to an LLC, which also has the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset that income. And with that, you would lower the tax bracket that you're in. So a lot of things there. I know that's probably drinking from a fire hose if you're hearing it for the first time, but there are reasons ad nauseum to set up a corporation here in the U.S. to operate under for your assets, and digital assets are no exception to that. And again, that's why we provide the service. If you go out to an attorney, they're going to charge you somewhere between $2,500 up to $3,500. That's why we price it at $3,000. But again, you can get it up, go to the website, digitalfamilyoffice.io, and you can get 50% off. So you can get it done for $1,500. Everything you need, exactly specific for what you want, with the code 5050 OFF, OFF, DAG, LLC. So appreciate you asking over here on TikTok about the LLC, because I probably wouldn't have run it down to that length if not. Let's see here. Don, thank you for the super chats, man. I feel like I'm not providing enough value for you and your question. Let's see here. If I missed anywhere. Nope. All right, we're pull it down to the bottom here. Okay, Kevin, thank you for helping people out with their memberships. James Hall says, any current news for RLUSD? Any hard dates on events that might be bullish for XRP? We do have Swift going like fully live this year. I believe it's in November of this year when all the banks have to be compliant for ISO 20022 if they're connected to Swift. I believe there's also some dates in March that coincide with that. Here this week on the 23rd, the BOJ is going to have to raise interest rates for the JPY, and the 10-year yield there should continue higher. If we get to a 2% 10-year yield over there in Japan, all hell is going to break loose on that reverse carry trade. So watch out for that. If we get to around 160 for the yen versus the dollar, also kind of a breaking point there, and the BOJ has been consistent in holding that line, selling off US dollars for yen to push the yen up against the dollar. The DXY is at an inversion point at 110 and should head back lower from here. So you also got the FOMC for the Fed at the end of the month here on the 30th, where they're likely to lower interest rate. Donald Trump has said that their interest is too high and interest rates are too high. So with that, I think they're going to get squeezed, and we're going to see that unfold here in Q1, which is pretty exciting. Thank you for the super chat, and hope you and your family are well. Super Beast, it's a good name. Is Cook Islands LLC eligible for XRP DWP returns? Yes. Yeah, if you're holding your assets in Nevis, Cook Islands, Jordan, Portugal, Monaco, any offshore entity, we work with people globally in the UK and all of those other jurisdictions I just mentioned, and we custody their assets and provide the opportunities if they are a accredited investor. Let's see here if I missed anything else. A couple people over here on TikTok. 5 million for the PPLI insurance, not for the LLC. If that's, so that's just the insurance and appreciation on assets. The LLC, again, if your assets are north of $50,000 in current value, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and set up a company that you would fund with the assets in order to be able to, mitigate taxes when you want to take profits. We still have a lot of this cycle left here. I think that we're moving into a super cycle for digital assets. I think, there's other people talking about this, and I think that they're right on it. I don't think that's going to happen for Bitcoin or Ethereum, but I do think there's a lot of other assets that are significantly undervalued. XRP, XLM, HBAR, XDC, Quant, Algorand. What was the other one? Avalanche, Chainlink, even potentially. There's things that are going to be used in a real world application. I think are going to have a really great run over the next 10 years here as all these systems are built out and used at scale globally in economies. We got Carrie Bragg. She says, I have, or he, not sure, don't want to be sexist here. I have paid and filled out for the form of the LLC. Awesome. Will I get instructions on how to proceed with formation of the LLC, setting up bank accounts, transferring to the LLC, and even selling and taking profits from the LLC? Yes. We provide you a full SOP in the follow-up email after you've paid with all of the intake form to get the LLC set up, along with how to transfer your assets over. We provide a video on how to set up a bank account and exactly the walkthrough there at Mercury. We can also provide you exchange partners. We have people at OTC desks at Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, Caleb and Brown, and many others that we can connect you with if you're looking to take profits, or you can work with digital wealth partners. That is one of the prerequisites to work with the wealth management firm, is that you have your assets in a corporation, an LLC, LTD, or trust in order to be able to work with them. So yes, you will get a follow-up email very shortly after you've paid, and it'll have all that information. And you're welcome to reach out, and we'll answer any questions in a follow-up email that you may have. So thank you. I appreciate you asking that question, because I'm sure that's a common deal people have. This person says, I received an error code when setting up my LLC with the IRS. I faxed the form twice and tried the phone number. It's been a month with no response from them. Still can't set up a bank account. I am sorry to hear that, Hoofhearted. We have a very streamlined system and really haven't had any issues on that front. I think we've had one. We've set up like 600 LLCs for digital assets at this point. And I think we've only ever had one issue with the IRS in getting things sorted out. So I'm sorry to hear that you're having that problem. It's not something that we would be able to help you with, unfortunately. You may want to hire an attorney to email them on your behalf and work that out for you. And I wish you the best in it. Hopefully you can get that sorted soon. Steve Moore says, what about transferring current crypto holdings into a newly formed LLC? That's exactly what we help people do, Steve. So a lot of people want to make this complicated. I don't like complicated. I like very easy and simple. I want the least amount of steps to get to where I'm going. Okay. You might call that lazy. Some people might call that efficient. I tend to lean toward efficient. But in this circumstance, you already have those assets in a wallet. They might be on an exchange. They might be in a cold wallet. You form the LLC, and in the operating agreement, the last page of the operating agreement is going to be a capital contributions page. And that's where you're going to list the assets that you're going to fund the business with. And you're going to list the wallet address that those assets are held in, the asset itself, XRP, XLM, BTC, ETH, whatever it is, the amount of the asset. So if it's 2 Bitcoin, 100,000 XRP, whatever it is, and then the dollar amount on the day that you transferred it. And you're going to go get that notarized. And that's going to serve as the timestamp of when that transaction took place. Now, you could go set up the LLC, fund a bank account, buy a ledger, move your assets over there. That's a bunch of rigmarole, and it's a pain. And now there's an on-chain transaction for when then that happened and it was funded. But just use the wallet you already have and set it up. It's a lot easier in my opinion. So that's what we recommend. That's what we help people do. And what you mentioned here is exactly, a lot of people are forming LLCs for an investment company to invest with their digital assets. And especially on the other side of price appreciation, I think a lot of people will be in a position where their full-time job is investing and managing their money. And so might as well set up the corporation now, manifest that, and make it happen. You know what I mean? If your assets appreciate 100 or 1,000x from here, wherever you're currently holding, you're in a position where you can be an angel investor. You could invest in real estate. You can invest in private equity, later stage, Series B or C. You could do M&A transactions and purchase boring companies that generate cash flow and offset your taxes. We work with Ben Kelly and his team to do that. So anyway, yeah, love to help you. Again, if you were here and you're hearing this for the first time, maybe you missed it earlier, the code for half off of the LLCs on the website at digitalfamilyoffice.io is 50 OFF, like the word off, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, and then LLC gets you 50% off of the $3,000 price. It's $1,500, and you get everything that I mentioned earlier, and we tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and provide all the resources. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Steve. Thank you again for the question. Got a few people over here. XRP to $1,000 only if the reverse carry trade unwinds and it's used to settle the back end of the stock market after there's unrealized losses with Bitcoin and the ETFs, which I do think is a high probability, but that's the circumstance in which that happens. Hoof says, any suggestions? I'd contact an attorney, brother. If you're having that much problem with the IRS, they're going to cut people at the IRS. And they're not, Trump froze all the hiring for new IRS agents today. So they don't have the help, and they're a government entity, and they're not there to help you. So I'd recommend getting an attorney if you're really having some problems, or just abandoning that one and refiling another one, so that you have it in place and you can, dissolve the other one. It doesn't sound like the other one's formed yet because they didn't get you the EIN number. So might just work with an attorney or another group to get that situated for you. Yeah, here you go. Living Legacies posted the discount code. So again, if you want to be proactive and get your assets into an LLC, be able to mitigate taxes, set up insurance policies, move them into a trust, fund foundations, set your family up, make sure that they are on there and that they will get the assets if something bad happens. This is the best way to do it. It's the cheapest way to do it. It's the most flexible way to do it. Get your assets into an LLC. And that's the code there on our website. If you want 50% off, $1,500 for the LLC instead of $33,000, which is what most attorneys would charge you. It's 50 off DAG LLC, and thank you, Living Legacy, for putting that up there. Super chat, Swamp Ming, not Swamp Thing, Swamp Ming. They say, what's the best case scenario for R3's DLT solution positively affecting the XRPL and its private connection with Swift? So we work with R3. We've had a relationship with them for almost 2 years, and they should be at our event in April speaking, which will be really cool. Their Corda is a private permission blockchain. It does not have an inherent token to settle the value on chain, and the reason for that is each one of these ecosystems that it creates are between trusted parties. You're going through KYC, AML, OFAC. They know who's participating and who's doing what in these environments. The reason that they need XRP or an external network to settle value is when they're moving value from one silo to another. So Bank of America wants to send money to Citi, okay? And they both have Corda as their core blockchain or their smart contract for how they operate inside of these ecosystems, but they need a way to move value. It connects to the XRPL and it can settle that value using XRP if there's regulatory clarity and enough liquidity. Those are their words, not mine. So if there's regulatory clarity and enough liquidity on the XRPL, Swift will definitely adopt either RippleNet or R3 in their solution globally, and it's not going to be 10% of the deal. It's going to be the whole thing. So that's $5 trillion a day that will settle over the XRPL at some point using one of those solutions, hopefully here in the near future. if there's enough liquidity in the asset. And I think that's why they're going to launch the ETFs. They need to really drive that liquidity into XRP, supply demand shock on the exchanges, and push the price to a high enough level to be able to facilitate those transactions. And then it'll hold there. That'll be a price floor because that volume will move every single day over the network. We've got Tom Thumb says, does anyone remember laughter? Not sure what they're asking or saying here. I laugh frequently, but I appreciate you on the super chat. Let's see here. We've got Swamp Ming says all the money. That's right, brother. That's where it's headed. You know, Ripple's stated mission was to make XRP a global reserve asset. And I do think that they're going to be successful in that. I think that you're going to see XRP listed as a tier 1 asset by the BIS, and it'll be extremely profitable and you know, very beneficial if you're holding it. This person's asked, what stocks are XRP? XRP is not a stock. It is a token used to settle value on a distributed ledger technology, decentralized global distributed ledger technology for banks and institutions. Curates itself and, you know, caters itself to high value payments. This person says, look at Coinbase. Yeah, that would be where you could go buy it. If you're looking for it on an exchange, you could look at Kraken, Coinbase, Uphold, Caleb & Brown. If you want to hold it on a cold wallet, let's say you don't have enough to get an institutional custody at Digital Wealth Partners. If you want to do it over there, you need north of, you know, $500,000 in current investments. Those assets do need to be held in an entity, so an LLC or a trust, and then you can get institutional custody with the SEC registered RIA, and they provide institutional custody and insurance on the assets there at Anchorage Digital, which is our custodian and partner for that. And they will also be speaking at our event in April. Decent is the cold wallet that I would use or recommend if you are going to hold things in your personal name or in your personal possession. That was what I was using prior to moving assets to institutional custody. XRP is an open source digital asset. It sure is. Global bridge currency, if you want to Google that. Marcus, so there are two options. This is a good point here. He says, I thought Quarters R3 settlement token was XTC. No. They can settle through XRP or XDC, whatever has regulatory clarity and enough liquidity to be able to settle transactions. XDC is a great opportunity, I think, not financial advice. We're working through the situation to be able to provide yield on XDC in the very near future, using nodes on the network and aggregating XDC to do that, and working with people that hold XDC to participate in those nodes. So look out for that in the very near future. Bullish on XDC. Have spoken at their headquarters there in Dubai. Met Atul and Ritesh last year in February. It's almost been a year ago. Anyway, yeah, they can use XDC. XDC curates itself toward contracts and contracts that have value. So trade finance, receivables, and you have a debt note or stuff like that. I think all that stuff could end up on XDC. But actual settlement of high value payments, it's not what the smart contracts there are curated toward. XDC does move that value, but not in the same way that XRP does. So settlement between institutions for high value payments, XRP, trade finance or debt notes or other contracts that have value, XDC. Let's see here. Grant Williams says biometric or the card, decent cold wallet option. What's better? The decent wallet comes with a biometric, brother. So you use your thumbprint on there. I like the UI on that better. You can use the card. There may be a tangent option for that also, which is just an extra layer of security where the keys won't be exposed or not written down anywhere. You can add a 25th word for the seed phrase on there. There's a lot of great things, and I think they're both good options there if you want an XDC or a decent wallet. Super Beast. They say, when will XRP Yield officially go live on DWP? We already have one person earning money, and the fund itself is also being used to trial stuff. Before February would be my answer. We will have the solutions in place and likely capital allocated and yields, returns being paid to people holding their assets with Digital Wealth Partners. Well, not being paid to, but earning returns hopefully by the end of the month here. M. Summers says, could you give some examples of what earning yield with XRP at DAG? So we had this full deal today. Matt Schneider, our CIO, who wrote this book right here, came into the mastermind and laid it down today. Full PowerPoint presentation. All of our members there know exactly what is going to be offered to DWP clients. We'll format that and we'll get it out somewhere to be able to share with people. At a high level, we work with sub-advisors, people that have run funds for 5 or 6 years and have a proven track record with very low drawdown. The most they've lost in a month is 1%, generating somewhere between 25 and 40% a year on average. And we put that into a sub account. They draw a line of credit against it. They go put that capital to work in their yield-bearing opportunities and then pay those returns back to the investor. And they're the one that lends against it, so there's no way you can get liquidated, which is awesome. So that's the way that we've structured it at the current time. We've looked at restaking. We've got some other products where the assets will stay there at institutional custody at Anchorage, locked up in a regular account, and then that value will be represented in Fidelity or Goldman or BNY or Citi because it'll have a QSIP number for the way that we're structuring it. So we'll continue to build out products. And we've also, I mentioned this earlier, we got our first loan across the line, a 7-figure loan against XRP the other day. We've had 8 or 9 people reach out since then. So it looks like we're going to continue to be able to provide liquidity against the asset, which is super cool. That's the main thing I wanted to get done before price appreciation, so that people didn't have to sell their XRP. They could just borrow against it and continue to refinance it as it increased in value over time and interest rates came down as it was used and became more stable. So yeah, super excited about all the products there at Digital Wealth Partners. If you want to reach out and learn more about that, you can just email info@digitalwealthpartners.net. And they will, an advisor will respond to you and answer any questions you might have before, wanting to work with them. Victor says, as a Canadian, can I form an LLC with you guys? I've tried contacting Aaron G, but had no response so far. Tag me on the email with Aaron G, Victor. Yeah, tag me or my team on the email with him, info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and I bet you he'll respond. I've got a meeting with him next week, so I will let him know that he needs to respond to you. You might want to set up an LLC here, but there's a lot of cost and benefit that you need to weigh out on that before you pull the trigger. So again, I just highly recommend talking to an estate planner in your jurisdiction if you do not reside here in the U.S. before you pull the trigger on setting up an LLC with us. Not to say it's the wrong move, just to say I want you to be sure before you spend the money and the time. This person says the mug. There's the mug. Yeah, Fire Marshal Bill. We got a little hot tea in here tonight. Don't have my jacket on tonight. Max had his on the other day. Let's see here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Swamp Ming. A couple other super chats. $5 from Jay Vegas. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate you. Jose says, Zach Rector spoke about a 200x market cap multiplier for inflows into capital into XRP. Okay, I see how that could be misconstrued or why. Love Zach. he doesn't always have the financial verbiage, I guess, that other people would use, but I understand what he's saying now. So it'd just be 200x on the current price. It's not like that sounds sexy with the market cap thing, but like it's the same amount of XRP and it's whatever price point it's at. So if you had a 200x on market cap, you'd have a $600 XRP. Sure. Yeah, I could see that, especially if you had Shane Ellis theory, 589 play out with the exchanges. That could definitely happen. So if that's what you were mentioning earlier, the other person that had the super chat, I'm sorry, I didn't know where you were going with that. This isn't the Nutty Professor, it's Professor Neptune. Sorry. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie. I like the Nutty Professor. I say, does market cap directly apply to the price of XRP? Yeah, so this is how you find market cap. Outstanding shares, current value of share, multiply them. But it applies mainly to stocks. People use market cap for crypto, and I don't think that's the right metric. I really think we're going to move to some other metric that defines liquidity for digital assets instead of market cap. Market cap's kind of archaic for this asset class. So, yeah, but here's the deal. This is a crude way of talking about this, but I'm gonna give you the example. I launch a meme token. I mint 1 billion meme tokens. I sell my mom one of the meme tokens at $1 on an exchange, a large exchange. Let's say it's Binance. I get it listed. My mom buys one for $1, Bob. What's my market cap? You got 1 billion tokens. She bought one for $1. There was a trade at $1. It's $1 billion market cap. Even though my only one token was sold for $1, it's $1 billion market cap. So that's like, it's archaic, doesn't make a ton of sense to measure digital assets that way. If there's a publicly traded stock and there's enough liquidity in that stock and there are open markets and there's depth in the order book, like that's when that stuff makes sense. He got it. 1 billion. You guys got it right on the nut. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a crude example and it doesn't, there's other variables associated with that. But I say that to illustrate to you how market cap actually works and why digital assets, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Amur says, is CWP hiring? We do have some spots available for people that do have their 65 and a proficiency with digital assets. If that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have a conversation. Oh no, Conservative says I'm missing their super chat. I'm sorry, Conservative. Let me scroll up here and find it. If I really did, here it is. I've got it for you. Thank you for reminding me, and I apologize I missed this earlier. They say, hey Jake, XCN versus XRP, please explain. Love your work. So I've been doing a little research on this XCN deal. So this is Onyx. I don't know if it's actually JP Morgan's coin. There's a lot of conflicting information out there about that. I need to really understand who created the token, but it seems like that's what everybody's saying. So it's JP Morgan's infrastructure. It's an EVM-based token. It's used to settle value within their ecosystem. Its stable coin would be JPM coin, which would be dollar denominated. And it's, working. We've talked to Onyx. We talked to them last year at Consensus about working with them to tokenize private equity. They didn't seem overly interested. Let's see here. What was that guy's name? Brody. Brody over there at JP Morgan is who we talked to. Obviously, that token's had a really good run here recently. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money on it. Is it going to be used at scale? Probably. If it really is JP Morgan's XRP competitor and it's going to be used in their environment, there will be people that partner with JP Morgan. JP Morgan is the largest investment bank on the planet. They control like half of the global silver. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a ton of silver tokenized using that token. XRP is going to have the whole globe. Here's the difference. So all of these other banks and institutions and enterprises, they don't like JP Morgan. They don't want the counterparty risk of JP Morgan. They don't want JP Morgan telling them what to do. So they're not going to use their token to settle. If JP Morgan has control over it, they went to Ripple and tried to buy the escrow of XRP when they figured out what was going on in 2017. And Ripple told them, nope, up yours, get out of here, politely. And so they went off and they fostered the relationship with Ethereum, and now they've launched this token. And it's interoperable with the XRPL through Axelar because it needs to be. The winner overall and the most ROI that you're going to see, in my personal opinion, take it with a grain of salt, just some guy on the internet, is definitely going to be XRP over XCN. But I do think XCN, if it is associated with JP Morgan, is going to be used and is likely a decent investment. I've just had so many people ask about that, so I went and looked it up the other day, and I've had a couple other people talk to me about Onyx, and when I found out they were the same thing, I was like, ah, there you go. Okay, so Cornstar says JP Morgan developed it. There you go. That seems to be the consensus across everybody else too. So again, I think there's definitely upside in it. I think there will be tokenized real world assets on it. I don't think it's going to be the global network that everybody uses, but I do think it'll be interoperable. Why would a bank use XRP for cross-border payments? Doesn't make sense. Well, Nick, I would argue against that. There's $27 trillion locked up in Nostro Vostro accounts globally right now. And that's a lot of money to just be sat there to settle transactions. And they're holding it in a currency in that other jurisdiction in order to be able to settle those payments. And that's a lot of locked up liquidity that they could be repurposing for other reasons. So if they had a mechanism by which they could settle cross-border payments instantly and not have to pre-fund accounts, I think they would take that. And that's what XRP provides with RippleNet and the other providers that have built things on the network for instant payments. We've already seen thousands of banks willing to work with Ripple and utilize a digital asset to settle. It's not XDC, if that's what your deal is there. Again, XDC's, trade finance, and it's definitely price appreciation there too. I'm not saying it's not, but XRP will be used for global cross-border settlement, and it will replace the Nostro Vostro accounts, and it will free up $27 trillion in locked up liquidity globally once that happens. So anyway, that's my opinion. You can have yours. Everybody's entitled to their own. That's just my 2 cents and why that would happen. And that's $5 trillion a day through SWIFT. He also says price can drop between payments. Why did Ripple start a stablecoin? These are good questions. All right. So if both parties want to settle and they're willing to accept Ripple's stablecoin, which has counterparty risk and is dollar denominated, then sure, they could do that. But I would argue that the majority of the institutions are going to want to issue their own stablecoin on the network. And Bank of America isn't going to want to accept Citi's stablecoin. They're going to want to accept their own. So you need a DEX or something to settle between them that's agnostic and trusted, because they also don't want to have to deal with the counterparty risk between the other. And if you're using somebody else's stablecoin to settle, you have counterparty risk with them. So in the 3 to 4 seconds that it takes to settle, it's actually far less volatile than waiting the 3 to 5 days it takes to settle between jurisdictions now, even with pre-funded Nostro Vostro accounts. And this has been spoken, lots of times by Brad Garlinghouse and other people, large banks and institutions, including Bank of America, that have trialed and used XRP for that exact application. So, again, try to settle a payment with Bitcoin and see if it drops before it's going to. Stable coins will be used when both parties want to accept what the other one is paying in. But if they don't want to accept what the other party's paying in, or they're swapping assets, so let's say I'm trading you a stock for dollars, you want the stock, I want the dollars, or maybe I want yen. You want to pay me in dollars, but I want yen on the other side of the transaction. That transaction is going to go through XRP to be able to settle it. So that's why they would use it. So hopefully that's clears that up for people. Price could also go up between payments. It takes 3 to 4 seconds to settle. At a high stable value, you're not going to get a large fluctuation in price. I don't know if you've ever sent XRP between two wallets. It's almost exactly the same when you get it on the other side. It takes about 2 seconds to settle a transaction. And if you're swapping immediately into whatever the counterparty currency that the other person wants, there's actually extremely low volatility in comparison to any other method for transmitting value. It says Ripple is the network used, correct? So if so, why use XRP and not just the stablecoin they created? You have counterparty risk with them, and I may not want their stablecoin on the other side of the transaction. And they may be a trusted party. It's also cheaper to use the XRP instead of their stablecoin. So that's another one of the main reasons that they would use XRP over Ripple stablecoin. It's all about counterparty risk. After 2008 and the financial collapse that happened then, banks don't trust one another. They're not going to accept each other's stablecoin. They're going to want to hold their own stablecoin in reserves. They trust their own auditing. They don't trust other people's. They need a trusted solution and a network that's decentralized that they all run validators on to check those transactions. And they're going to want to use an asset that provides a DEX to sit between them to exchange value. Let's see here. How close is Japan to unwinding? Love being part of Carbon One. Awesome. From Holland and Australia. Very cool. Again, I think this week if they raise interest rates over there in Japan, especially if it's 50 basis points, it's going to be fun to see. Thank you for the follow, man. I appreciate you following. Hopefully, and I'm sorry if I ever come off like arrogant on stuff. That's not my intention. This is stuff that I stare at every single day, and it seems like common sense to me. But I ask myself all of these questions for years, and so that's why I have such strong opinions on them, because I woke up for a year and a half every single day trying to figure out how I was wrong. I'm like, no way I could figure this out. No way that this is going to be the thing that changes the world and is used at scale by all the banks. Like, I'm going to poke a hole in this. There's got to be a chink in the armor somewhere. Couldn't find it. I just became more and more convicted that this is going to happen. It is going to be the asset that they use, and for all the reasons I just mentioned, and many, many more. And especially with all the conversations that we've had with Ripple and R3 and banks and other people developing technology using it, it's not an if, it's a when. This person's asked, XRP is 5 digits long term. Well, they didn't ask, they just made a statement, and I would agree with that. So David Schwartz has talked about it being, meant to be $10,000 per token. And think about it this way. So the higher the value of the token, the more stable it'll become, because the volume or buy and sell orders that'll be, having to move it when it's quadrillions of dollars in market cap will have to be quadrillions of dollars. Like, it's going to be extremely stable at a high value. So yes, I think once it's $10,000 and it's settling the back end of the derivatives market, 2026, 2027, somewhere in there, I think is a realistic time frame for that with Codius, if they were to roll that out. It's going to require that, though. They're going to have to roll out Codius. Super Beast, what are the benefits of a Cook Island LLC over a Wyoming LLC for asset protection, taxes, etc.? There could be, I'm going to run down pros and cons, okay? First one's cost. If you're domestic here in the US and you're wanting to set something up in the Cook Islands, it's not cheap. especially if you're going to manage assets there. You're going to have a nominee, director, and a trustee, and a distribution trustee, and you're going to have to pay for custody. There's a lot of things that are required there in the Cook Islands if you want to manage assets there. You're going to be looking at just, if you set up a company in the Cook Islands, not necessarily a trust, still going to be, if it's managing assets, kind of a minimum of $30,000 to $50,000 a year would be what I would expect just to manage that over there. Nevis is cheaper than that. Cook Islands charges a premium. They've never been penetrated by any of the U.S. government, anybody else. You would also, it would limit your capability to use the assets substantially. Also, just so you're aware, if you move things offshore, they're going to come after you. And, there's going to be things there that just cause issues. If you're domestic here in the U.S., I highly recommend onshoring stuff, especially if you're not doing anything illegal. Having things here is not a problem. We can set up a trigger trust if you want to do that and have contingencies and have people in place to move assets to the Cook Islands. It costs you about $25,000 to get everything set up, and it's about $10,000 a year to maintain that entity over there in the Cook Islands. We work with a specific group to do that, Brandon Abergon and his team. Just a lot of cost and a lot of control issues and a lot of problems if you want to set your stuff up in the Cook Islands versus Wyoming if you are a U.S. citizen. There was another person up here that asked a good question that I also asked early on. Here it is. Seth says, why couldn't another token come in and knock out XRP and do the same thing? You could copy the code. It's open source. Go copy the code and go try to get people to use it. That's the secret sauce. You would have to have an escrow, some type of way to manage liquidity on the network. You would have to have global inroads into all of the banks. You'd have to have a 10-year track record of the network never going down. You'd have to have people in places like at the head of BlackRock's digital assets, like Robbie Mitchnick, like previous treasurer Rosie Rios, like Michael Barr at the head of the Fed for digital assets. All these people came from Ripple or work with Ripple or sit on their board, by the way. It's like there's other technologies I think are great. Aleph Zero, I think, competes at scale with XRP and has smart contracts, and it's in Rust. We know one of the founders over there, Matt Niemerg, great guy. They don't have the partnerships. They don't have the legacy. They don't have the track record. They don't have the inroads. They don't have the buy-in. They don't have the trust. They haven't met with the IMF and the Fed and all of the other global banks. Like, I don't think people. So XRP was actually XNS when it was minted. There was 100 billion of them minted. The original count was black holed. The asset itself cannot be frozen or clawed back. There's no counterparty risk with XRP. Ripple develops things on the network, but they do not control XRP. It's a decentralized network with over 250 validators on the network and 35, people that vote on the amendments that are all trusted by all the validators. It's a high-level governance system that's been put in place over the last decade. They have a foundation that helps create and foster new people utilizing the network to build things out. There's 15 years worth of work that's already been done. And banks don't move fast. They're legacy institutions. They take a long time to trust something before they implement it. And again, XRP was the second cryptocurrency ever created, even before Ethereum. Like I mentioned, it was XNS, and then it became Ripples. And then in 2014, when the IMF wrote a paper about an exchange rate peg, and they abbreviated it XRP, that's when Ripple rebranded Ripples to XRP. So it is the exchange rate peg. Anything that starts with an X is also agnostic. There's no owner of it, like XAU is gold. There can be people that own the specific amount, but there's nobody that controls the supply. So that's another reason it starts with X. So you can look at that. You see things that start with X. That's why. X. That's why. That's funny. So anyway, it's a really good question, Seth, and there's lots of people that have asked that question. I myself asked that question for a long time, and the answer is everything that I just mentioned. It would take a long time, and once it's implemented and they've chosen a winner, which they already have, it's been chosen for years and in the making for years, they're not going to swap to something else. They've already integrated it. Bank of America was using it to settle back in 2018. There's not another digital asset that has that type of track record. There's no other digital asset that has as much uptime as the XRPL. I think it's been paused a couple times in its existence. It's never been down. Solana goes down. It was down just yesterday. It's not going to be the global reserve or the U.S. reserve for digital assets. My prediction here, I'll go ahead and say it, XRP ends up being the digital asset that's the reserve here in the U.S. and Trump uses as the reserve to offset the debt. Who Aries, is there a minimum amount of XRP to be able to gain yield? Not here, a little late. Yeah, so with Digital Wealth Partners, it's going to be, you have to have at least $500,000 in current value of digital assets. We did run a short stint there for the mastermind members where they could get in for 50,000 XRP. We do a lot of stuff for mastermind members. So if you want perks and benefits for all the stuff that I'm building and our team is building, we always offer them and try to take care of the people in that group. Great culture there. Everybody there is to help everybody else and lift each other up. And anyway, if you want to go check out the group, you can get a free month there. It's mastermind.beyondbroke.com. And the code for the free month is BeyondBroke, just like it's spelled up here on the screen, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, like Mary, Oscar, or month, gets you a free month there in the group. Check it out. Come to the Discord, listen to the town halls. I think you're going to find a ton of value for the cost of the group there. This is great. Todd says, Jake, thanks for all that you do. Thank you for the kind words, brother. He says, what is your opinion on how fast banks will move to hold crypto after SOB 121 is repealed? Do we need a catalyst? Is there legislation that be needed as well? I think they'll just repeal it. I mean, it got all the way to Biden and he vetoed it. I don't know why he vetoed it. It makes no sense to me. So yeah, I think that'll be one of the first things that they implement will be to revoke SOB 121. And you'll see, so BNY, they already have fireboxes, their infrastructure, they can hold digital assets. Fidelity holds digital assets. Goldman, Citi, Bank of America, they all use Corda. They're all going to hold digital assets. They're all going to use them to settle. We're on the precipice of that happening here in 2025, but it will take them revoking SOB 121. And I do think it's going to take stablecoin regulation to see, the price appreciation, liquidity move in like people want to. Let's see here. Should I take profits on XRP as the price goes up or take a loan out against XRP? If you work with Digital Wealth Partners, they have advisors there. They can work through a full financial plan with you, set price points to take profit at the lowest cost of anywhere. Any exchange out there. Kraken does 20 basis points, or not Kraken, Anchorage does 20 basis points with no spread. And it doesn't matter the amount that you're selling. Borrowing against it's tax-free, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than the capital gains tax that you're going to have, especially if you're liquidating large amounts. So I can't give you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If you want that specific type of advice, I would, email info@digitalwealthpartners.net. And they can take some time out and work that out with you and provide you exactly what you should do for your life and your goals with your XRP. ROUSD uses ETH and XRP, will expose ETH and its expense and slow transactions. Yeah, I mean, the EVM sidechain on the XRPL is what it currently uses to settle through XRP. And yeah, I think you're right, spot on there. Do you think XRP will go up over $5? I think XRP, depending on global events, could be $100 to $1,000 in the very, very near future. Thoughts on Trump coin? Garbage. Wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Know a bunch of people that lost money on it very quickly. I joined Beyond Broke, but ain't figured out how to join. Thomas, email us. And anybody, if you have a trouble connecting to the Discord or have issues getting logged in after you join the group, please email info@beyondbroke.com and just let us know that you're having some issues, and we will walk you through the process and make sure that you get in there and get access to everything that you need. So again, apologize that you're having issues, but please email us if you are having those issues. info@beyondbroke.com. You get, most of the time it's just people didn't download the Discord app. You have to download it before you can try to log into Discord. I also made that mistake, so it's not just you. Kevin Dory, thank you for the super chat, brother. Hope you're doing well. Excited to see you on the 2nd here in a very near future up there in Arkansas. We have an event. That's another thing we do in the mastermind that I don't think anybody else does. We do a lot of IRL, in real life events. We try to do those at least once a quarter for our mastermind members there. It doesn't matter which group you're in. We have events that are open to everybody across the board: social, Carbon 1, Carbon 2. We have exclusive events for Carbon 2 that we do once a quarter, retreats for the business owners and the professionals there and their families, which is also super cool. So looking forward to those this year. Super Beast, if we take a collateralized loan against our XRP, what is the maximum we can borrow, and what's the interest rate we would owe over the year? Not a maximum you can borrow, but an LTV. So loan to value ratio is going to be somewhere between 30 and 50% most of the time. So you're going to have to put up double whatever you're borrowing. Interest rates are mid to high teens right now. We are working on solutions to get that down to high single digits in the very near future. And that is over the year. Those are monthly payments that are due on the amount loaned. Yeah, pretty simple. Interest-only payments with the balloon payment at the end. And again, you can refinance it if the asset's appreciated. Pull assets out and just use however much you need to continue to refinance the loan, roll it. We have lots of partners: Arch Lending, Maple Finance, and Galaxy Digital that we're all working with on the loan side. Beep, boop, boop, beep. It's the robot. They say Telegraph or Cointelegraph, new Trump to soon sign an executive order easing bank ownership of digital assets, says Circle CEO. Awesome. So that's SOB 121. He's going to revoke that, and we're going to see the floodgates open as these large institutions get access to stuff that they haven't been able to for a long time. Hunter, thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate you and your kindness. Kevin Dory says, have you set a date for the April event in Dallas? Yes, we have, Kevin. It is April 24th. You could just get with Max, and he will get you the Luma invite for that. James says, big shout out for Bentonville, Arkansas. What? I'll be up there. I'll be up your way here in the near future, brother. Looking forward to seeing you there on the 2nd at Kevin's event. Courtney says loans are given to people who joined DWP. That's correct. And not given to, but pretty easy to get them. If you have enough collateral there, our partners are very willing to loan against it. So yeah, happy to have those conversations. You just want to reach out to info@digitalwealthpartners.net, and our team there can let you know specifics about the loans and what it would take to get your assets into custody to be able to provide those for you. We are coming up on an hour and a half here. Probably hang out for another 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. What was the bill he was revoking? SAB 121. It requires that banks hold the digital assets that they're custodying for other people on their balance sheet, which doesn't make any sense at all. Can we buy 100 XRP by end of year? Sure. Can we see $100? Maybe that's what they're asking. Yeah, I think it's highly likely, depending on global events, that will take place. XLM price prediction. We should be able to hold XLM here within the next couple months at Digital Wealth Partners also, and hopefully be able to provide yield and lines of credit against it also, just so people know. Give us 30 days on that is kind of my expectation. Again, give me some grace. I can't be promissory. I got my hand slapped by our compliance team, so we're dependent on Anchorage for that, by the way. And so if they have any changes, it won't be in that time frame. But that's what I'm hopeful for. But anyway, for the price prediction, I can tell you the cap that I don't think XLM will ever go beyond, and that's $999. That's I think the cap for XLM, because it's peer-to-peer payments. And if they're going to do peer-to-peer payments, they need to be able to do micro payments, and so you need 4 decimals to the right of the decimal place, or the decimal. And so with that, because the code's 7, that leaves 4 over here, or 3. So my price prediction for XLM, the highest it'll ever go is $1,000, in my personal opinion. Still crazy returns from where it's at today. So James has asked for an HBAR price prediction. I've thought a lot about this, James. I really like Hedera. Hedera's fees are fixed and dollar denominated. They don't escalate as the value of the token increases over time. The token itself does settle value on the network. And that's really these protocols that are going to see the huge price appreciation. When the token is used to settle value in that ecosystem or between parties on the network or the protocol, that's where the money is. Again, just my personal opinion, biases. So Hedera, I think you could see probably similar price appreciation to XLM. Yeah, I think you might see a cap somewhere around $1,000 per HBAR. I think that's reasonable. We'll see. I'd love to be wrong and it go higher than that. Just transparent for a lot of people. But that's my long-term price prediction for it. Hunter says he gave the super chat earlier, so I'm gonna give him the shout out and we'll answer this one here. He says top 5 cryptos you would highly suggest holding in your bag. Not financial advice. Can't give you financial advice. I don't own anything other than XRP. That's it. I got one holding. That's all I hold. Don't buy anything else. Continue to buy that. So that's my choice. I can tell you other protocols and networks that I think will be successful and have some significant price appreciation, and I'm bullish on here in 2025. But you make your own. I don't have suggestions. I just have information. So XRP, HBAR, XLM, XDC, and Avalanche is probably my other one. Avalanche token. Or not Avalanche, but Axelar. Axelar is probably my 5th one. If I had to pick between Avalanche and XCN and all the other tokens, those are probably my 5. Peaky Blinders. Thank you, brother. So people don't know, I did go earlier back in June this year and get a hair transplant. Very excited with how it worked out, and I really do appreciate the compliment. If you guys want to go back out and check out the video, we went to Estee Mark Clinic there in Turkey. They invited us out there and did the hair transplant procedure. Super happy with the results. I'm 33 years old, and my hairline was receding significantly, and I don't know. I think I look a lot younger than I did just a few months ago with the hair transplant. So thank you for the kind words. And he said Peaky's going to need to fix his non-existent widow peak. Yeah, go check it out. Estee Mark Clinic there in Turkey. Amut is the guy over there, and I think we're going to do a follow-up with him here in the near future anyway. So we'll put that out there on YouTube. Peaky says you look 25. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I gotta go get some Botox and clean this up. James Hall says, I see new folks asking similar questions. They may not know about the book Wealth in Numbers. yeah. So we put this out at the end of December. If you guys want to go check it out, leave us a review there on Amazon. Max Avery and myself authored this book. It's called Wealth in Numbers, and it's how you run and do private deals here in the U.S. So if you want to syndicate and pool capital and invest in anything, it could be a real estate property, it could be private equity, it could be an M&A transaction. Hell, you and your friends want to syndicate a private jet, and so that y'all can use it. Use a 506B or 506C Reg D fund here in the U.S. It's a legal securities offering, and we give you everything in that book that you could possibly need in order to be able to run those deals. Thank you, James, for recommending me talking about that, and I appreciate the super chat. We've also put together a platform called Syndicately, which will be going live this week, finally, after years of development and setbacks. And oh man, I don't know if you guys have ever built a SaaS product or a platform. It's a beating as a tech founder. But anyway, we're solving a problem that exists. If you've ever run a deal, if you read that book, it's 480 pages of work, making that streamlined and easy, where you just send an email to the investors and it's all done for you. It makes it super easy to raise capital and syndicate a deal, and it's all done the right way. So excited to release that book and continue to foster the democratization of access to investments. I think more people should get into that and provide that value to people around them in their network. You want to find good opportunities. You want to do due diligence on deals. You want to make sure that you're investing in the right stuff. But there's a lot of people that are not accredited that don't get to take advantage of private equity and other things that can do that through those means. And that is what we provide there in the mastermind group too. We work with people that are sophisticated investors because we provide financial education and business resources there in the group, and we have a pre-existing business relationship with the individuals. We have all the pretenses in order to be able to run a 506B Reg D deal there in the group. And so that's how we syndicate deals for fintech companies and private equity for people that are not accredited there in the mastermind. If you want to learn more about that, you have to join the mastermind. Because it is a 506B, I cannot talk about the specific investments here publicly. We cannot market it. We can only market that we do the deals there in the group, and we're excited to be able to provide those opportunities to our members. So let's see if we got any more super chats before we wrap it up here. Hey, he says he just ordered the book. Thank you. Carbon One member. Awesome, brother. Super excited to have you in the group, and thank you for ordering the book. We don't make a ton on it. We made it $5.89. XRP fanatics out there will get that. Super B says, if I'm interested on the loan, taking your assets, is it in the 10 to 15% range? Where would you put your money to get a high enough return to exceed 10% to make it worthwhile? There's lots of stuff right now to earn more than 10% on your money with where interest rates are. Hard money lending, you're getting anywhere between 18 and 20%. We got new real estate, generating 18 to 24%. I've got other deals, we get a lot of deal flow. So it's not the same for everybody, but Digital Wealth Partners has plenty of places and other opportunities to be able to generate enough returns to service the debt. So anyway, yeah, would love to have that conversation with you if it's something you're interested in. XRP says, Miss who wrote a book. Here's the book. Me and Max Avery wrote this book. It's called Wealth in Numbers, and super excited to get that out to the market, along with the launch of our platform to be able to syndicate private equity deals and real estate deals and other types of private investments here in the U.S. So thank you, Peaky. It's good to see you. We got one more over here that I'll take before we wrap it up. Kevin says, name of the book, Wealth in Numbers. If you want to go check it out and leave a review, it would be very much appreciated. It is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Goodreads. Do you have an XDC prediction? I really like XDC. I think XDC between $1 and $5 is completely reasonable this cycle, especially if it is used for trade finance. and settling those transactions. Yeah, just it's a pretty big leap from here. We're currently, I can look over here in the mastermind and I can tell you prices. So that's one of the things we have listed in the top left-hand corner of the mastermind here. We got XRP at 307, Bitcoin at 201, 102. We got XTC at almost 12 cents, HBAR at 33 cents, XLM 43 cents, Quant $103.83. DAG, we didn't talk about DAG tonight, but I think that's another sleeper. And then Axelar's token is 58 cents. So we list those up there for easy access for people that are in the mastermind that want to check those prices out on a pretty regular basis. Peaky says, very cool, you're inspired. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for the kind words. Hustling, working probably 10 to 16-hour days, 6-7 days a week, every single week, and have been for 2 years now. And so it's starting to pay off. Excited about, things coming through and the price appreciation and all the benefits and products and services we're going to be able to provide people. And we have a hell of a team too. It's not like I can do this alone. I have a big vision on where I want things to go. And we've been able to attract really high level talent that's executing at a high standard every single day to be able to bring that to life. And if they're watching, thank you guys for all that you do. They're up right now, sending emails at 10:30 at night, getting stuff done. They work as hard as I do, and it's really cool to have running mates that want to run as hard as you do, and are excited to come to work every day and really crush an opportunity. And that's what I think this is. I think we're going to look back on this month, this quarter, as one of the biggest opportunities of our lives, and really excited to be here and participate with all you guys. Steve's asked how much for a consultation. My time is $1,000 for 30 minutes. I know that seems high. I prioritize my time, and I do think that I can deliver more value than that in 30 minutes. But we do have other team members. It's $250 for a consult with Digital Wealth Partners or with another one of our advisors at digitalfamilyoffice.io, and they are as good as me in everything that they help people with. So I would love to have a conversation if that's something you're interested in. But with that, we will go ahead and wrap it up here. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Excited for this week. Hopefully we see some price appreciation, some utility, some repeal of SOB 121, some other awesome executive orders, and yeah, just a really good start to 2025. We will be back Wednesday night for the live as usual. And until then, God bless, and we will see y'all on the next one.